Greetings, comrades. In this video, we are responding to questions that you have been posting in our media platforms. We might not deal with all the questions, but we try to respond to those that we can. Comrade on X Space is calling, the comrade calls themselves Lavito is asking, he says, how do you feel about the Patriotic Alliance getting Minister of Home Affairs? It is not our call on who should get what ministry. What we heard from the African National Congress, that is from the president of the African National Congress, was that the NEC had resolved to form a government of national unity. It is an issue which we believe that is still under discussion. We know that the Revolutionary Council, we had a meeting yesterday, that is the Alliance Political Council, yet a meeting. We are told that later today, on Thursday, there's going to be an ANC-NEC meeting. So we do not know what is going to be the outcome of those meetings, but particularly, we do not know who's going to be elected as the president of South Africa by the South African Parliament, and who's going to be getting what position. So we are not worried ourselves, even if the Patriotic Alliance gets the Ministry of Home Affairs. It is not our call. We cannot, like we said previously, our mission is not to co-govern with the South Africans. Comrade Tabiso Modise, who have been chatting on X Space, writes, says, independence received more than 40 years ago and the Lancaster agreements fulfilled. What more do we want? We want to complete our liberation. The liberation of Zimbabwe is not complete. It can only be complete when the decisive means of production are in the hands of society as a whole. This is why that at this stage, as the Zimbabwe Communist Party, we are saying let us build a national democratic economy, and we are explaining in our literature, and we'll use these platforms to also explain what we mean by the national democratic economy. So we need to build a national democratic economy before we build a socialist economy. Comrade, there's a comrade who had asked a question. I no longer see the question. Let's get some more of your questions that you asked. Some comrades were asking about the ZEP, to say what are we saying about what is the government saying about the Zimbabwe exemption payments. People are applying for these Zimbabwe exemption payments, if you are not for the Zimbabwe exemption payments, but applying to move to other mainstream visas. So we hope that if you are a holder of the ZEP, you are applying. And then Comrade Zaz 7 Matu, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, says, why is Home Affairs changing permit dates willy-nilly? We are not sure, and we seem not to understand your question. Comrade Imbizo Forum says, for how long will the Zimbabwe Communist Party continue to be bystanders in Zimbabwe politics? I personally would like to see the party in the midst of action, crossing swords with other political players. We are not bystanders. Our mission at this stage is to intensify political education inside the trade unions and other organized formations. We do assist other unions with political education. We are one of the parties that have produced more literature. In fact, we have produced more literature than any other party in Zimbabwe. Our mission is to set up political education. We are working on our third educational material that is meant for the trade unions in Zimbabwe. So we hope that the two that we produced are assisting the trade unions in Zimbabwe, and will continue to work with the trade unions. I know that Comrade Imbizo Forum wants the party to compete in an election. This is the question that where we are always being asked. It's important to understand the role of a vanguard and that of a mass movement. We are building a vanguard of the working class and peasantry. We are not building a mass movement for the purposes of contesting an election. We are building a vanguard of the working class and peasantry to lead society into a socialist economy. We will define later on our vanguard role, but what we are currently doing is to build class consciousness amongst the workers in Zimbabwe and other organized formations. Hence, the need to intensify political education. I will skip Comrade Lungis Ndlovu. Your question about Arsenal. I do not want to talk football. Comrade Qiniso Nkazimulo is asking, he sent 3 questions. He says, what is your take on renaming Matabele and Miklians? We'll only comment once we know the objectives of renaming of those provinces. At this stage, we do not know whether there's an agenda to rename those provinces. It says, what is your opinion or objectives on the silent voice in Parliament about Mtwaga's region? I seem not to understand the question, but each constituency in Zimbabwe is represented in Parliament, including my own constituency, Umzingwane. We have a member of Parliament that represents us in Parliament. So the question would be, in our view, what is the relationship? What is our relationship as citizens with the elected officials or elected public representatives? How often do we interact with our councillors, with our members of Parliament? When they go to council chambers or they go to Parliament, whose mandate are they carrying? Do we know what the Parliament is discussing? Do we get a feedback from our own members of Parliament? Do we do research and assist the member of Parliament on issues that should be raised in the National Assembly? If we are not doing that, we ourselves we also take the blame, because as citizens, it is us who elected the councillors, who elected the members of Parliament, and it is our duty to know what they do, and it is our duty to assist them to perform in carrying out their duties, because they do not represent themselves. Even though they were elected under a ticket of a political party, the day you become a councillor, you become a member of Parliament, you represent your entire ward, your entire constituency. So it is important, therefore, that as citizens, we participate in meetings that are organized by public representatives, so that we raise with them directly the issues that we want them to raise, either in council chambers or in the National Assembly. Comrade Aubrey Sbanda writes, morning Newetu, is asking about waivers, if those waivers that were returned due to some spelling mistakes or incorrect information will be out before the closing of the application of moving to other visas. The minister said, if you are you have a receipt as proof that you applied for your waiver, it expires in November 2025. So that means the application to move to another visa, once you have a receipt, it expires in November 2025, and we believe that by then your waiver outcome will be out, which you had sent back for corrections. Comrade Chiratizo Masube writes, is this GNU not going to affect us foreigners? I'm not sure. We're not sure how to respond to this question. But you will know that the minister did publish the white paper on migration. We do not think that it is going to change under new administration, though we call for its review. Our view is that it should be reviewed because we do not think that we think that the white paper on international migration gazetted in 2017 proposes better ways of managing migration. But again, as we said, that it is up to the government to decide whether they want to continue with this white paper or not. But our view is that it should be reviewed. If they don't review it, well, we'll have to live with it. Comrade Stars says, morning, bengicela ukubuza about ama-waiver permit ukuthi is it for everyone or labo abekade belama-permit before. We always struggling to clarify this for a simple reason, because any person can apply for a waiver, right? Is provided for. But the waivers that were announced by the minister on 25th November 2021, they are for ZEP holders. But any foreigner can apply for a waiver. But then there's a category of waivers meant for ZEP holders. So the simple question we always say, others then they say, no, you are misleading people. We then, because we see the confusion, we then elect to say it is for ZEP holders only. But any person can apply for a waiver, but the ones the holders of ZEP are applying for, it's only meant for them. That is to say, those waivers that they're applying for are waivers for people of low skill. So if you are outside the bracket of ZEP, or if you are not a holder of a ZEP, you work as a domestic worker in a supermarket and so forth, you cannot apply for such a waiver. But generally, any foreigner can apply for a waiver in South Africa. Comrade Ntombi Chuma says, amavuko comrade mina bengicela ukubuza if nga-apply waiver le-receipt ngabisela i-waiver of correction. I think I've answered this question, that if you send back your waiver which came out, it had some mistakes, you have to wait for it to be reissued. Please continue writing your questions. I am Ngabuto Nicholas Mapena. Like this video, subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you're on TikTok, please do follow us. We are recording short videos, less than a minute, for our TikTok audience, and these videos are targeting Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe. Otherwise,